Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Hey, Mark, on the lighter side here, I got a crime of the week here for you. And, we always talk about these stupid federal crimes that are on the books. And I guess they're there because, some are really surprising, but they're there because somebody tried to do these things at one point. And I guess somebody in government decided that they wanted to enact a law to keep them from doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
So
makes sense.
We're always looking out for our listeners, and most of these have something to do with money. It's a federal crime for a performing chicken to come back to the United States from Mexico without a health certificate from the veterinarian. So if you have a performing chicken, make sure you adhere to that rule.
Is that like a chicken that's in a chicken when they do the chicken fights? Is that a performing? What other performing chicken is there?
I don't know.
Is the veterinarian from the U.S. or from Mexico that's going to sign the certificate?
That's a good question too. I don't know.
Interesting. I'm guessing that's to curb chicken fighting.
I guess it's I guess.
I think that still goes on.
That would make sense.
Last I heard.
Oh man, that's disgusting stuff. But I'm telling you, there's some silly things on the books these days. At least they sound really silly, on the surface. Hey, let's talk about financial diseases.
Okay.
I don't know if you were talking about these chickens bringing diseases back into the United States.
Sure.
I don't know. But the doctor is in, and Mark, the doctor in this case is you. I'm going to give you a financial disease, and you tell me the best way to find a cure.
Okay.
Number one on my list here is something I would call acute portfolio riskopathy. Patients afflicted with this particular disease often see significant volatility in their portfolio, which can lead to other health issues like upset stomach or inability to sleep. What are the causes of acute portfolio riskopathy?
I would say, taking more risk than maybe you're comfortable taking or understand that you're taking. I've always said this, but everybody wants to take risk when the market's going up, and then nobody wants risk when the market's going down. Unfortunately, nobody has a crystal ball or one that works, so we don't know when those are going to happen. So it's taking the right risk that you're comfortable taking, and two, that's going to keep you on track for your goals to make sure you don't run out of money. So everything's down. This is like I mentioned, this is a tough year. The stock market's down, the bond market's down together, which is unique in its own. So everybody's experiencing losses in everything. And so with that being said, it's understanding what your goals are, and hopefully if you are retired, as I'm telling my clients, you don't need all of your money today, which is good. So take what you need to maintain your lifestyle, and then you can use, by the time you need the rest of that money, hopefully the markets have recovered. But nobody knows when, but things do come back. We know that. So it's making sure that you're invested in the right allocation. So when things do recover, you take advantage of that. So you do come back. And so with that being said, you have to take risk in this economy to make anything, especially with where inflation is. There's not an investment out there that you can put your money in risk-free that's going to keep you on pace with inflation. It doesn't exist, and I don't know if it ever will in the short term.
Well, thank you, Dr. Silverman. The doctor is in today, Dr. Mark Silverman, and we're talking about curing various financial diseases. That's acute portfolio riskopathy. A lot of people have that. But also, here's another one, old Fogey's disease. Now, the causes of this disease are a long lifespan combined with poor planning, which can cause its victims to start running out of money toward the end of life. Is there a cure for this?
Well, people are living longer. Each generation is living longer than the last. So the last thing we want to do is plan for something, shorter life, and then you end up exceeding that, and then you have no more money because we didn't plan for that. So we want to make sure you have more money than you do life. People are living longer, not necessarily healthier, especially with Alzheimer's, dementia. There's a lot of people living a longer life that needing care, which costs money no matter where you are. It costs money to continue to live. And so making sure that you have the right plan that's going to account for these sorts of things to make sure that you don't run out and don't run short and become a burden to your kids or grandkids or whatever it might be, and that you can still be somewhat independent as far as your finances are concerned.
Okay, another financial disease here for you, and you might be able to figure this one out right away. Inflation-itis. This particular portfolio disease never exhibits noticeable symptoms at first and can actually go undetected for a while, but it slowly causes deterioration of the buying power of your money. What are the usual causes of this disease?
Well, inflation's always around, but it's not as noticeable. We use generally speaking, a 3% inflation rate, which sounds extremely low, but a year ago it would probably have sounded extremely high. So it just depends on your time frame. The 9% or whatever inflation number you want to use is not sustainable for anybody. But inflation does erode purchasing power. So depending on where you are, what stage you are, if you're still working, retired, everybody needs some type of growth in their portfolio, no matter what age you are. Obviously, the older ages would be less growth, but you still need growth to keep up with inflation. And like I said before, there's no risk-free investment that's going to give you a hedge against inflation without having to take some risk. So it's understanding what those investment risks are and coming up with a portfolio that's going to be sustainable, that you can stay invested in, that's going to get you to and through retirement.
Okay, that's inflation-itis. How about nursing home-atosis? I'm getting a kick out of some of these titles. It's hard to say it without laughing, but nursing home-atosis. Patients suffering from nursing home-atosis may experience the rapid deterioration of their wealth due to exorbitant nursing home or assisted living expenses. How can we prevent that particular disease?
Well, there's lots of different options out there, and nobody wants to go into a nursing home. But the reality is 1 out of every 2, 1 out of every 3, depending on who you want to listen to, will spend some amount of time in a nursing home. As I mentioned, my mom was in a nursing home before she passed. She was one that would never want to be in a nursing home, but things happen. I just had a client recently tell me they just had to put their father into a nursing home in Northern Virginia, and it's $20,000 a month is what they're paying. $20,000 a month.
Who can afford that? Wow.
Yeah. So, medical inflation is a lot worse than our inflation, which, believe it or not, that's possible. So it's understanding what your options are. Self-insuring is an option, but you should understand there's some other options. There's traditional long-term care, but there's also some newer ones that are asset-based where you can actually tie in your life insurance to cover long-term care expenses. And those are some of the newer policies out there, and I think they work very, very well, and they've worked well for some of our clients. So it's just exploring what your options are. Then you can make an educated decision on how you want to handle it if and when that time comes.
One more I wanted to mention here, and this is Uncle Sam syndrome. Uncle Sam, it seems, is always standing there with his hand out. One of the most reviled diseases in our society today. This malady causes the patient to turn over too much of his or her money to the federal government. We talked about being tax efficient earlier. Either while living or upon death, or both, they're handing over too much money to the federal government than they should. How often do you see people suffering from this disease who don't even realize they have it?
Sure. So, everybody's going to have to pay taxes, and tax avoidance is not an option. But realizing that you're going to have to pay taxes, but you shouldn't have to pay any more. And there's a lot of things. Things are continuously changing. One thing that's not going to go away is tax rates. Tax rates are going to continue to increase no matter, who takes over. And the fact of the matter is understanding what those options are and being smart about it and looking not just at your investments, but looking at other sides of it and looking at the tax side of it and being proactive in that is going to help you in the long run pay less taxes. We have software that we use. We can illustrate that for clients and show them, hey, here's some different options. That'll save you taxes in the long run. And understanding that so you can make an educated decision to understand that being proactive is going to be in you and your family's best interest. Taxes aren't going away anytime. Unfortunately, but there are some things that you can do to try to minimize the taxes you have to pay, and that's one of the services we do provide as well.
Yeah, and we don't mind paying our fair share.
Correct.
We're not talking about doing anything illegal here, but
not a penny more.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to pay any more than you absolutely have to. So, hey, Mark Silverman is on the radio. Go tell everybody you know. Mark, tell folks about how they can get in touch with you and get that first conversation going.
Sure. So you'll give out the number, Ron, but all it is an introductory phone call. You'll get 15 to 20 minutes to speak to me. We don't pawn you off on somebody else. And you'll get on my calendar. We'll have a phone call, answer any questions that you may have. discuss our process, our planning, what we do, our services. And, if we're a good fit and we find that we're on the same page, I'll invite you to come into the office for a getting acquainted meeting. Or if we're not a good fit, or you just have a couple questions you want answered, or you don't want to move to that stage, I'll provide you some general advice and try to point you in the right direction, help you in that regard as well. So this offer is open to anybody that has an interest or that we think we may be able to help.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money.
Did you know that Mark Silverman also has a radio show? Tune in to Saving with Silverman Saturdays and Sundays at 3 p.m. on AM 790 KNST.
All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. This show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.